Okay, so good evening, and this is the regular meeting of the Housing Committee for May 3rd, 2023. I am Kathy Hunter, and I will be chairing tonight's meeting, and we are joined by our Housing Committee members, Elaine Feldman, Nicole Donzello, and Mary Dean. We do have Jonathan Lofters will be coming a little bit later. We're also joined by our interested resident. And do you want to introduce yourself?
I guess I could.
Hi.
My name's Miles. I live here in Woodbridge and I just taken an interest in housing, especially in our town.
Yes.
Great.
Which is really, really cool, I think.
Wonderful.
And just as way of background, or maybe disclosure, I did meet with Miles a couple weeks ago, and he talked about his interest in affordable housing and planning, and I just think it's just great that our young people are interested, and I would love to have them more involved in this process. So he's going to try to participate and come to these meetings. I thought that, maybe he could be a committee member, but I guess because I know for commissions you have to be an elector, and I didn't think that necessarily applied to ad hoc committees, but they said for now he could show up and participate, but we'll have to wait until he's 18 next year. And when he gets registered to vote, he could consider being a member of the committee.
Welcome, that's really wonderful.
It is wonderful, because these kids, I think, are so much more insightful and smart than I was at that age. So we really need young people to be part of this process. So with that, I'm going to turn to the agenda, and the first item is an update on Coopop's town-owned property list. So
Yes, and my phone is not cooperating, so bear with me for one moment. Okay. Great, here it is. Fantastic. So, as everyone is aware, and just in case you are not, part of the charge of Coopop is to maintain a list of publicly owned properties for the town of Woodbridge. There are 4 categories that properties do fall within, and this list should be updated pretty regularly. Unfortunately, it has not been updated since 2014. So one of the first items of business that I wanted to complete was to update this list. As we started looking into the list, it was obvious that there were multiple properties, I'd say actually use the word numerous properties, that were miscategorized. So as a result, many properties that were within category 1, which are grant and aid properties, did not belong there. And in fact, we're under category 3, which is kind of like the catch-all category that doesn't have any assigned agency or committee or commission to that property. So we're
Does
still
that
in.
mean like no restrictions?
No, it doesn't mean no restrictions.
Okay.
It just means grant and aids. It wasn't purchased and had a grant and aid. So, however, so as we're going along, when we noticed that there are these errors in the list, we have been going property by property and researching the deeds and property cards for each property. So it has been time consuming, to say the least, because this list it'll be digital form, not just on paper. Mm-hmm. It will be on the our web page within the town of Woodbridge, the Coopop's page. It will include not only the property address, but also a link to the deed, a link to the property card, as well as any pertinent information such as restrictions. So, and the type of restriction, so that any agency or entity within town or a town resident that's interested can just go to this list and determine what property, any type of information of any property. For housing's purposes, is that the category 3 properties, that we do have quite a few that are vacant properties with no restrictions thus far. There are some that are vacant with restrictions. Some of those restrictions are conservation in nature. Some of those restrictions are residential only restrictions, which would have no issue with housing, this particular committee's goals. So what CUPOP plans to do is, once we're completed with our list, we are almost done with category 3, which is great because category 4 is our shortest category. So we should be done this month with the list. We are trying to locate deeds that are not on the town website, so we are researching that to ensure that our list is a comprehensive list and that everything is accurate and can and some type of a document can be cited for the information that we're giving everybody. Once that's completed, phase 2 of this project, although some would say it's a new project, is to also, pursuant to our charge, look at every property within the town of Woodbridge to determine whether or not the usage need to be changed, if it should remain the same, things of that nature. When it comes to the vacant lands within category 3, do not have restrictions, I would anticipate that there will be members of the commission that are going to want to investigate that further and determine what usage, other than being a vacant piece of property, the town perhaps could utilize that land for. Whether it's, whether housing has an interest in it, whether recreation has an interest in it, any agency within the town, conservation, as part of their greenway expansion plan, whatever it may be. And then I anticipate, of course, having hearings regarding that and any interested parties coming in and indicating what their interest is. And then we would, of course, make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen regarding that. Now, just to give you a little background, I know I don't know how much I've explained previously, but the way and the procedural way that it would work is that once we do our review, and we're going to do it one property at a time, it's not going to be a catch-all situation where we're going to say, here's a list of 10 properties, please come in and let us know. We're going to do it one property at a time. And the way that our recommendation would be submitted is that after we hear from all interested parties on that particular parcel, if any, there may not be any, we will then submit to the Board of Selectmen a comprehensive report similar to what we submitted for the 1014 Merritt Avenue subdivision, where we will provide all of the information given to us by the interested parties, whether it's maps, documentation, anything of that nature. We will summarize all the positions of the parties interested. We will conduct our own research and provide that to the Board of Selectmen as well in any documentation. And then at the end, present our recommendation. So the Board of Selectmen has a full picture of everyone's position involved with that particular parcel of property. So it will be time consuming.
Wow.
But we're up for the task. It's been quite some time since this has been done. I think I believe there was an audit of properties, and I want to say in 1982 was the last time something like this. So let's even
When you
look
say
at.
audit,
Well, that was more of and I have the document, I'm using the word audit, but it was more of I don't know if audit's the right word, but they did provide a very comprehensive report on all the properties and all the history of the properties. It's actually a very interesting piece, and I think it's on our website right
is that
now.
the CUPOC committee did that, or who? did
No,
that?
yes, in 1982, that's correct, yes. So it's actually on our website if you wish to look at it. It's pretty interesting, they did a lot of work.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying we're going to go to that level as of now, but we are certainly going to review the town property to determine, whether or not the usage is providing a benefit to the town as stated within the 4 categories.
That'll be extremely helpful.
So
Worthwhile.
look for our notices for that. Certainly I would plan on noticing every agency or commission or committee that may have an interest in it, so. And that's where we are.
And what is the category for?
Category 4 is right of first refusal. So those are particularly, for example, 7 Forest Road, which we found out for our information that all state properties, is a state statute, that all state properties in a municipality have a right of first refusal with the town. So we just found that out after we were given the same, or sent the same email that you received, regarding 7 Forest Road. I did not know that. I did not know that there was a state statute in existence that was a requirement, but category 4, again, is right of first refusal. Those are usually your utility companies, that have property within the town. We're going to now also, now you bring that up, look to see what properties are owned by the state of Connecticut within Woodbridge and add those to the list as well.
That would be great.
Yes, so that's another, so it's pretty lengthy process,
Yeah.
one that I have to be honest, we did not anticipate would have so many issues, we thought, I don't know what we were thinking, maybe perhaps that we really hadn't disposed of any properties that were on that list, but we didn't anticipate, properties being miscategorized and not properly named and things of that nature, so. And missing deeds, not that they're missing, but they're not on the website, so we're going to find them and include them with the list, so, yes, it'll be a very helpful list for everybody in town, I hope, and more comprehensive than we've seen in the past, so.
So when do you think this exercise of the list is going to be completed?
Well, it has been quite some time. We have had special meetings as well regarding it. I am anticipating it being completed, I'm being very optimistic. I'm hoping by our next meeting, we can be completed, depending on how many state properties are in existence in the town of Woodbridge. We are really close, and a lot of the properties that we have left, and I'm trying to list right now, a lot of the properties that are left, some are multiple properties in the same area, same street in a row, so something that may have at one point been a development site and that just fell through for whatever reason,
Yeah.
so we're kind of hoping that'll just zip right through, but then again, those involve maps and, things of that nature,
So are you saying it might be ready by our next meeting or by your next meeting?
My next meeting, I'm hoping we will be able to conclude the list and have a bulk of that list completed. Whether all of the deeds and the documents that we're still looking for to attach will be ready is another story, but I certainly will have the rough draft of the list available, so we will know the properties that fall under, it'll be under the right categories, we'll say that. And then I'm hoping we'll have all the documents completed as well, it will be attached to it, the links. But that may hold us up a little bit because we are looking for them, and so, but yeah, so they'll be very helpful, I think, especially for, your purposes, right, for housing, to see what land is available, if any, within the town of Woodbridge for potential housing. And I anticipate a lot of committees and commissions other than ours will also look at that as well and want to utilize some of the land for other items. So, it'll be busy for us for a little while for Coop-Hop, so, but happy to do it. Glad it's finally getting done. Learned a lot about the history, by the way, so.
yeah.
One other thing is that, I don't know if you heard, but conservation is, putting within working with the trail master of, creating historical landmarks and throughout the trails. And so I did, and they were gonna work with Historical Society as well on that, so I offered to, provide information as well, because we found a lot of interesting information about some of these properties, so. So that's it in a nutshell.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot. Thank you,
Who's
wow.
doing all the legwork here?
It's really, I have to give the credit to Javier and to Allison, because without those two, they're great. Javier really is very interested in it now. He's really vested in the historical piece of it, and he
Good.
keeps
Now we have a job
digging
for
more
him.
and more and more, and he really enjoys it. So they've been great. So they're really, I have to give them all the credit, so.
You can take some.
I'm a good delegator, I guess, right? So that was it, but they were great. So it's been a lot, it's been a great project, although it's been very time consuming, but it'll be so helpful to the town, I think, so.
Yeah, I'm just trying to operationalize how we use the list and with the process that you're talking about, because you're
So-
talking about like one property at a time, and I'm wondering, like, if there's properties in close proximity.
Yeah, so for example, God, I'm trying to find my files, give me 1 second. So for example, well, just so you know, I'm gonna give you the 4 categories, just so you know what they are. The first are land and buildings dedicated to open space or other use under the terms of grant and aid conditions, that's how they were purchased. So now, the second is land and buildings, the uses of which are now under the direction of existing commissions or other agencies of the town. The third, which is is where you'll see a lot of the vacant land, is land and buildings, the uses of which are not under the direction of existing commissions or other agencies of the town. And then,
Close together.
yeah.
Come sit.
And then number 4 is land and buildings to which the town has the option to purchase and/or right of first refusal. And those are the ones that 7 Forest Road did fall under. So, and that's the one that we're gonna be looking to see what other state lands, if any, are in existence in town, to add those to 4. But a lot of the ones that fell under 1, which are grant and aid conditions, dedicated to open space, actually were 3s.
Okay.
So, I don't wanna say a lot, that's probably not a good characterization, but enough to pique my interest, which, necessitated us going line by line for every single piece of property, because we want to ensure that everything is accurate and can be pointed back to the actual deed of the property, so, and then, so then, and 2, of course, those are already under the direction of commissions or agencies, right, so those are, the center school and, things of that nature, right, Beecher, and then you have category 3. So, I forgot what your question was, I don't think I answered your question.
I'm just
Oh, how is it gonna help you?
Well,
This is
Well,
like,
how
yeah.
do- How do we handle it?
So how you handle it, so 1 and 2, so really you're gonna be looking at category 3. Those are lands and buildings, the uses of which are not under the direction of existing commissions or other agencies of the town. So as of now, you can see, this isn't pulling up, there are numerous properties that you'll see on there that will say vacant land, right? So it'll say vacant land, and then what we're putting in there is whether or not there's restrictions. So right off the bat, you'll know if there's a restriction, and then you can look it up to see what type it is. Whether it's, conservation, or it's residential only, anything of that nature. If there's a situation like, to answer your question about, let's take Forest Road, for example. We own, I think there's about 5 or 6 on the list of Forest Road properties that the town owns. Maybe more, but just, my list isn't coming up. So, and then we add in 7 Forest Road if the town, decides to purchase this for the $1,500. So now we're talking about a large parcel of property. Now, obviously, we're not going to sit there and say, okay, let's take 7 first, which is 0.12 acres, right? And then let's take the second. No, we're gonna look at it as a, entire parcel of land, and what are we going to do with it, type of thing. Does it serve a purpose of remaining as vacant land for the town of Woodbridge, or can it be utilized for something else that is needed in the town of Woodbridge?
now if we start looking at your list and we're like, this is interesting property, this could be conducive to housing, and I'm thinking like where maybe you get an overlay zoning and you do like a higher density, housing development, say with like 10, 12 units, and it's, could be on a septic system, that would be able to get Department of Health approval, and it would shake out, except for the fact that it's not zoned for that, but that's where you probably get overlay zone. Could we say, hey, can you look at this, can you put this piece of property out and vet that out?
And make a request type. So you could do it one of 2 ways. You can either, as a group, create a recommendation, right, to the Board of Selectmen indicating that you feel that Forest Roads 1 through 20, and we don't own it in order, but let's say 1 through 20 should be utilized and sold to a developer for affordable housing, right? Or development with 20% of whatever you decide. Then they would send it back to us to, research and look at it and, have all the, get all the information together and call you in and any other interested properties. Or you can notify Coop directly and we can do the same.
Okay.
And that would be
Or you could do both. Whichever you like.
directed to the Board of Selectmen or to planning
It
and
would be
zoning?
Coupop.
It would be
Yeah.
Coupop.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And they get
Um,
it.
Planning and zoning probably would not get involved until after its decision's made to sell the property and to a developer, then the developer would come into TPZ and say, this is what we wanna do, so then Coupop's out of that, and then that goes to TPZ. But anything that is a change of use of a property, that comes through Coupop, so that's one of the things.
We already own everything in that whole plot except for Center.
Well, we own, actually, I'll tell you exactly if I can pull up my doc, it's not
Now, there's a
On
couple of
that
things.
side of the road.
there's some private
private.
property in there too. Oh, God,
That was,
where's my-
that was a pivotal piece though, that was a great one.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
the
you know where it
only
is?
piece in that whole section that we don't already own.
Mary, if you can pull up, I'm gonna try to pull it up here, but if you can pull up Coupop's page, and I listed all the properties we own on Forest within the recommendation, which is posted on our page. I'm gonna try to pull it up right now.
I just have a picture here.
Let's see.
Picture.
Here it is, 7 Forest Road. If it will okay. We own currently, without taking into consideration 7 Forest Road, 1 at 4.98 acres, 2 at 0.14 acres, 5 at 0.12 acres, 8 at 2.30, 9 at 0.12, 14 at 0.12, 22 at 1.17, and 24 at 0.19. So 1 and 5 and 9 are on the same side, obviously, as 7, and they have the evens on the other side.
This whole section.
Right, that's 1. Where 7 is in the middle, right? That's 1 and a little bit of 5 and 7.
And we've got this one, and this
Right.
one, and this one.
Wow.
So we have a total of 9.0.
And this one right here,
We have we have a total of 9.07 acres in that area.
and that one, which is.
And when I
not
was
that
poking
big.
around the GPS, there's some tracts of land on Park Lane that the town owns.
Yes, so there are properties, let me see, it's not coming up, I'm sorry. I was trying to pull up my, my Google sheet here, and my phone is not cooperating, so
So
please.
I drove by Forest Road, Forest Lane,
Forest Road.
Road.
Road, I think.
So like an awkward, I had to Google it to check my GPS if I was at the right place, cause it's kinda, makes a quick left, my only problem is like the location, I don't know if it's kind of behind,
But it's behind, okay, if you
And
go
it's a-
out,
it's
and
a-
I don't have the map with me, but if you,
it's a dead end too, right? It's a dead
right,
end.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah, I
so
haven't-
it's a paper
it's a
road,
paper
which there was a plan for a
Like
road.
small, okay, yeah.
And then off that road, it almost looks like a driveway, but it's a dirt road, and you go down there.
Gotcha,
And this
gotcha.
particular parcel, 7 Forest Road, is located in the middle of a parcel that we already own as a town, and that entire area is 4.9, what'd I say it was? 4.91 acres. So these were called the theater lots, which is, they used to, at the doors of, there was theater prizes that you would receive. And so the reason why we believe the town, and the state in some instances was able to get this property is because we're assuming that people perhaps weren't able to pay the taxes on it, and so the town and the state respectively ended up with some of these lots. Now, there still are a few lots back there. There is a private home back there,
Yeah,
maybe
there's
2
a
private
couple-
homes.
couple of
There
houses.
are, most of them, it's mostly wooded area and it's not developed, but they are, they are small parcels of land. They are typically the .12s, but I believe that now, I wish Javier was here because he knows the entire history, but the 4.91, that's already owned by us acres, must have been, and he would know better than me,
Gotcha.
the theater lots just all split up,
Yeah,
so.
right.
It was also known as the,
It's like the Woodbridge
Woodbridge
Station or something.
yes, Woodbridge, was it Woodbridge Heights or something like that, which I put into our recommendation and kind of gave the history of it, because at some point in time, it
Yeah.
was going to be the, premier development for the New Haven area. And it just never came to pass. But it's a very interesting deed if you were to read the deed, which will be on our website with it. But it's very interesting how they just gifted these properties to people at the theater. So they're known as the theater lots. But
Interesting. And
Crazy.
how long ago was
the 1930s, I believe, or 1920s.
It was, the Woodbridge Heights was subdivided in 1925.
Mhm.
This particular
Let me
piece,
see, I have it.
I think, was acquired in 1928.
Yeah, let me see. I have the
It was
history.
quitclaim to the state in 1983.
It says, it says most properties of Forest Road are referred to as theater plots during the 1920s, which ranges in size but were mainly 25 by 100 feet. And it was known as a paper development named Woodbridge Heights, which was mapped and planned in 1925 and marketed as New Haven's finest residential suburb. And the development never occurred, and with most of the property being quitclaim to the town or foreclosed upon.
Gotcha.
I'm
So
pursuing.
we'll just bring it back,
I'm
right?
pursuing.
Right. And you know what's funny? It's it'll be almost how many years will it be then? If it was 1925 it was mapped, so
Hey,
it could be a 100-year
100
anniversary,
years.
right?
100-year.
Woodbridge
Wow.
Heights.
I like that, that's a
I
great
think
idea.
that was one
All
of
right.
the reasons that we wrote the first town planning and zoning regulations. Because I saw this and I said, we don't want this to happen.
So here's the map that I have that I attached to the, and I'm sorry I can't make it bigger, but this is the map that I have with all of the individual lots, and so that's why we ended up getting all of these and making the 4.9, and
Yeah.
so, but yeah, so I think once the list is done, you're going to most likely be looking, and really the only ones that could be looked at would be the Category 3 properties, and then wherever you see vacant land, determining if there's a restriction. But if you see a restriction, make sure you still look at it, because some of the restrictions are solely it'll say residential only, so that doesn't preclude any housing development. There were a few that said single-family homes only as well, which again could still be an affordable situation. But that's
So who would restrict it for single-family homes only?
whoever gave it to the town. So if they donated to the town, and that was the restriction that they placed on the donations in the deed.
Okay,
So all the information comes from the deed.
gotcha.
That's not common. I mean, I saw it. I think we're not all the way through yet, but I certainly saw it once, maybe twice, but it wasn't really common. I did see
Yeah,
residential. I did see straight residential, and I've seen, open space conservation, but not. It wasn't very common.
Well, I mean, if you go, definition, I use the HUD definition of single-family, it's 1 to 4 units. The multifamily only starts at 5, so maybe it depends on what definition.
Sure.
you're going.
These were very old deeds. I think they
Yeah.
were.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all the detail that was in there. So I don't
Well,
think they
that's-
provided any. Some of them were handwritten. Some of them, so it's very interesting.
So I'm just thinking, because I think what we want to start planning for, because we have a couple things to plan for. We do have I'm probably skipping around, we have the Board of Selectmen's report in June, but also ultimately, I'm thinking like we have some type of community charrette where we're talking about how are we going to create housing in the town. And I think what could be interesting is if there's potential properties that are thrown up at, on a map. Because, there's got to be some agreement on something, right? And then people could start, and you bring in maybe a planner or an architect or somebody that could look at the property really quick and then, kind of do it a visionary type of exercise. I think that would be interesting. So that's my thoughts.
I mean, I would assume that if and when we are looking at all the properties, Coupop I'm talking about, and when we start reviewing the list and going through the properties to determine whether or not those properties are still serving a use of the town of Woodbridge as is, and if we feel that we want to see what other uses are out there, that would be something that would be helpful if somebody came in and said, we feel that this could be a good land for development and why. and this is the vision. I'm sure, like, I know, for example, conservation is interested in certain pieces of property, right? I mean, I'm sure they will be in all, most likely. Certainly some because of the expansion of their greenway, the plan that they have adopted.
Now, do they
So-
have like particular properties that they're,
There is a report, and I don't want to speak to it because it's been a while since I've looked at it, but they certainly have an expansion plan. That includes, the certain properties that they may or may not have it currently that they are requesting. So,
Probably should look at that.
certainly that will be something that when we start reviewing the list after we complete it, again, which I hope is this month, keeping my fingers crossed, we will pull out the, expansion plan that we were given by conservation, and we will look at that, and I'm sure Tim Austin will inform us as well if any of those vacant lands are needed for that expansion plan, things of that nature, so.
okay.
But it would be certainly helpful for the commission, certainly for me, to know that, these are lands that, properties that could look like this, and you could show us. what
Yeah,
they look
yeah,
like.
I think you've just gotta start, and that's why, I'm a little, I get a little anxious that I just wanna like
Get moving.
get moving,
I mean,
like
they
get an
re-
affordable house.
right. I mean, I think, and again, there's not that, I don't want you to think that there's a million vacant lots in the town of Woodbridge that we have to go through.
Yeah, yeah,
It's really not the case.
right.
But there's enough.
yeah, I mean, that's a good incentive if, we are promoting, opportunity housing, affordable housing, if the town does like, put that in as, the town's going to donate that for housing. I guess, and that's another question, if they're, like, say if in a perfect world, that there's a piece of property, and it's determined that, yes, the best use would be for, a nice affordable housing development, and the town will donate this, will put out for a RFP and say, okay, we want to develop this property, we think it could probably accommodate 10 to 12 units, we are going to use an overlay zone to be able to build a number of units. Does that property have to go to a town vote to use that for?
Didn't we look this up and
I
we
know,
said it did?
I think
And
it
even
did.
if it's a lease greater than, yeah, I think it does. Didn't we have this
Okay.
conversation?
I think we did. I forgot what the answer
I
was.
can't remember either.
If they donate.
I want to say, I'm going to say yes, but I could certainly look at that
Yeah,
again.
I'm just,
Because we are disposing of land.
but that's a
Um,
town meeting. It's not a referendum.
Not a referendum. We raised the question
Yeah.
3 or 4 meetings.
Yeah,
I
and I
know.
had the answer then. And
I know. I was thinking like today. I'm like, I think it does. I think it probably does, but
Like, for example, just so you know, and a lot of these properties, just keep in mind, are on the same area, just like Forest Road, right? So there's property, it looks like on Brookwood Drive, that we still need to research.
Oh, Brooklyn.
But says it was residential restricted vacant land, but because it was one of those quasi maybe developments that never went through, we have to actually pull the maps to determine which lots they're talking about, because the information, the deed is only 30 feet by northeast, and so we have to actually look at the map to determine. But
Is that where the power lines are though?
it may be, yeah,
What's the address?
Brookwood Drive. It may be.
Yeah.
I mean, but a lot of these, again, here's Forest Road again. Theater lots. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's some lots that we may have to eliminate because of size.
Yes.
And how big, in
Yeah.
terms of, Nicole mentioned 4.9 acres. I guess I don't know what that would mean in terms of how many units or housing you could, maybe that may be an answer to have, maybe present to, Board of Selectmen and say, hey, here are the properties, here are the ones that are available, and potential amount of 30, 20, 10,
Yeah.
So Donovan, I wish I could show, I'm gonna send this down your way, okay? 'Cause you can't see it from here.
Can't see it.
But the map that I have that I submitted, lists the different properties by number. So number one, and I'm just gonna explain this to you and send it your way. There's a red number one down here, okay? This map, this is supposed to be the road, right? This map, other than what's in these rectangles here, this is all number one, okay? And that's the 4.90 acres, okay, that we already own. Number seven, as you can see, is plopped right in the middle of there, right?
Yeah.
So obviously, that would be problematic. I mean, they'd have to get to seven by, we don't want that to be sitting with somebody else, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And then we have number 9 and number 5.
Number 9, and they're both
It's a-
town.
Right.
it's
So
cumulative-
That kind of makes sense now that we have 4.9 plus the 0.12, 0.12, and 0.12. So it's plus 0.36. So we're talking over 5 acres now.
Yeah.
And depending on what type of housing is approved, if it is, if the usage change is approved from vacant land to, development, for affordable housing purposes, and depending on what type of land, you could put a lot, I'm not the expert here, but 5 acres could be
5
substantial.
acres could be,
Substantial, right?
yeah, you
Yeah.
could put it,
Well,
I mean,
yeah, and
Right.
the town of Woodbridge owns a lot more, there's number 13.
Across the street, yeah, they have
Well,
13,
no,
and then
right
across
here,
the street too.
13.
Yep,
So if you got 7 and 13,
Yep,
you'd
yep.
have this whole
correct,
big section.
correct. Yep, that's the
This
map.
whole-
And the other piece that I wanted to also bring to your attention is, I don't know if anybody watched the conservation special meeting on this as well, because not only housing and CUPOP, but conservation was also asked for their input. And, they did also, present a recommendation to purchase the property with a conservation easement on it.
Yeah.
And also, we're discussing, now I don't have any of this information, so I can't confirm it, but we would have to figure this out, that it's in a watershed, that's a watershed area. I don't have the map, I can't verify whether that's, accurate or not, but, that's also something. Now, I would feel that Javier would have told me that while we were going through the information,
if it's
so I
in
don't know
water.
if there is any documentation indicating that. I do know that there's small areas of water within
Yeah.
that area. Does it overflow at times? I'm not sure, but I again, I can't speak to that. I don't know, but certainly that would be something that we'd have to take it, that you
yeah,
take
we'd
into
have to
consideration,
look into
right?
it and, feasibility of it. And if we wanted a higher, density development, we'd have to
Right.
see whether or not we in fact could,
Mm-hmm.
put in a community type septic system.
Right. So whatever the developers do.
Yeah,
I
and
don't
that's,
do that.
that's dependent on, having the right,
Right.
soils and things of that sort. But certainly it's been done in other towns.
It's funny, as I read your email on the 300 units, affordable units in
Oh,
town.
yes.
Is that proven yet, or even wasn't?
Well, I did the analysis, and I mean, I could share it. This is the Kathy Wick shared the
Yeah.
list of properties.
Yeah. That was very interesting. Your letter
Yeah,
was
and I should
very-
I should probably send the spreadsheet she sent, and yeah, it's on. That's part of the town's property, the appraisal list. That these are appraised, properties 250,000 or less. But,
Appraised.
Praise, that doesn't mean that's what
It's
they're
funny,
going.
I just saw a listing, a house listed in town, 2-bedroom, 1,600 square feet for $400,000.
Yes.
Maybe one of those.
Right. Well, that's the whole thing. There was something that was appraised there,
Yeah, I get these emails,
yeah, there was-
listings were
there was a property on North Racebrook that was appraised for like $379, and it sold like last month for like close to $700. So, I don't know how accurate that list is, first of all, and I think they made the assumption that if there's going to be a federal program, they're going to look at the verifiable town appraised list, which is like, no, they're gonna look at what the person could afford. And these units have to be available to people, has to be affirmatively marketed and available to people. And the fact is that there hasn't been any houses that have sold for $250,000 or less in a long time. I asked Buddy to run a list, and he ran a list, and I used even the 250,000 cutoff, and there was in over 3 years there was 20 houses, of which a couple of them were sold to investors who then fixed it up and
And flipped them.
sold it and flipped them for 400, 500,000. So, and I'm not saying there's maybe a couple of those houses you could maybe, my thought is maybe if they are somewhat affordable, you get maybe a CDBG loan to rehab it, and you could get the deed restriction on it because of the federal subsidy in there, and then it's restricted, and you can make it restricted. And I think there's a couple, you probably could do a couple of those, but I think the whole concept is just, it's just, the assumptions are wrong. And most of all, using 250,000 as the affordable price.
It's not really realistic.
Yeah, when you start, and we actually did a spreadsheet when we put like the housing cost, based on the current interest rate, because maybe 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago when we started this, when the mortgage rates were low, yeah, maybe you could have gotten a house affordable for 220,000 or 230,000. But the interest rates, they're now, 5.5, 6%, that really kills the affordability of a house.
There was a house that just sold on Fairview Road. This is another place that was subdivided very early on by the family that owned the property. So it's a non-conforming lot, and it has like 780 square feet. The kitchen's been torn out and so forth, and it just sold for $228,000. The good thing is apparently it wasn't sold to be turned over. It was sold for someone to put his daughter in there. So hopefully, we have a single family home that's actually going to somebody who could be in. But my take on it is a lot of the houses in town that have assessed evaluations at a fairly low point are houses that have been in their respective families
For a long time.
for a very long time. So they haven't turned over, and they haven't been upgraded.
Right.
So this would be, this Fairview would be another example of a place that would not qualify for Chaffelon, because the interior was not, the kitchen was not there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, the house has to be housing quality standards, because if you're selling it to somebody who's 80% AMI, they can only spend 30% on their housing costs. If they have to go in there and put in $100,000 of, renovations to make it livable, then it's not affordable
It's not affordable.
to them.
Yeah.
So did you get any response from Kathy yet?
I didn't, it took me a long time to
Yeah.
respond to her, so
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it took you a long time to so carefully prepare that letter, which was excellent and
It was
so
and
good.
comprehensive.
And comprehensive.
Yeah.
Well, I was just trying to just,
Keep the communication going.
keep the
on issue,
communication
yeah.
going and just kind of step by step explain why we can't really use this as saying we have enough, we meet our affordability in town.
I'm tempted to suggest that we write a letter to the editor on this point, but it is so complicated that it would be a long letter, and I'm not sure that's the best way to get that information to
Yeah.
the people who need it.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna side with Ben Fink on this, not go down this rabbit hole, and we could get into debates all day long, and folks may not change their mind on this. and so, but I think all you could do is just give them, you know, the
Give 'em the facts.
the facts and the analysis and
Information and
the
continue.
reports, because we have reports that show that, you know, if you build 1, 2-bedroom units, you're not gonna flood the schools. You know, we have studies on that. People don't wanna hear it. So it's just gonna be, we're just not gonna change everybody's hearts and minds. So I think we just have to, you know, keep the conversation going for those people that are, you know, that, like the people we've been meeting with,
Yeah.
who really didn't have much knowledge whatsoever on affordable housing. And once they heard it, they were pretty inspired
Yeah.
to,
Receptive to the information
Yeah.
and ask good questions and.
so I think we have to depend on, those folks and our high school students that are gonna be 18 or older, that are gonna come out and vote. We're gonna,
Well, it's good to have that information
yeah,
ready. If somebody is just insisting, then you can give it to them and say, get back to me with your questions.
Yeah.
yes, so
And
that's.
hopefully that would be the end of the conversation.
All right, so I think everybody saw the letter I wrote,
Yeah.
just this is finishing up 7 Forest Road. It was just a simple letter saying that we should purchase it in case we might want to use it for housing, and that's it. So I imagine this is gonna go to the town, the Board of Selectmen's meeting, and they're going to
Vote on it.
vote on it, I would say, so.
I saw it on the state website too, that, in response to this, it's
On
actually
the s-
updated
on the state?
yeah,
Yeah.
website, that, Woodbridge is gonna do it. It's almost as if they're saying Woodbridge is gonna pick it up and purchase it.
Oh, really? Maybe they already decided.
Go to, how did I find that? I think I just did a search of the address.
It is on there. I think the notice that they, yeah, I saw the notice on there. They updated
Search
it.
Google the address.
I would think they'd have to, that would be a Board of Selectmen thing, wouldn't it?
Well, no, they're probably indicating that we have the right of first refusal
Oh,
and
okay.
that Woodbridge, within the letter, we have a certain time period to respond, whether or not we wanna exercise that right. Which is why we had to get ours in by May 1st, so that they can vote on it and then subsequently respond, I guess.
Gotcha.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Well, the next thing on our agenda is some of the materials I put together for folks that we been having these community conversations with, and they were like, hey, yeah, we'd like to carry on the conversations, but we'd like to have some, you know, we had some information we could use to back it up in case people had some questions. And, you know, I started looking at the Guilford pamphlet, and, you know, I was thinking about updating that, but, you know, I think, I mean, there's so much information that you could provide, and I think if people walked in with a whole bunch of information, it
It's
could be a little-
overwhelming and.
it could be overwhelming, so, I actually had the wrong version of, this letter. I was supposed to accept the changes, so.
Let's talk housing.
Yeah, so this was the, what I sent out
Yeah.
before, so this is just a letter, I mean, so this would go out to the folks that we met with. And it refers to some materials, and I was trying to think through, like, what materials would be good at this point. I thought our preface to the town plan, the affordable housing plan, was really good. I reread it,
Yeah, it's excellent.
and I said, you know, we should just
Use that?
use that for, you know, for people to get an idea of what our, you know, what the planning process was and what we came up with and why we are prioritizing certain strategies.
okay.
And so,
Yeah, why reinvent the wheel?
Yeah.
I mean, it was,
All right, exactly.
it was good.
so, because we spend a lot of time and effort
Oh,
on
yeah.
this, so why don't we just repurpose it for community conversations? So, all right, so we have that, this Let's Talk Housing, the preface. I thought, and then this has to be updated, but there was, Scrog had produced this 2021 housing snapshot, town of Woodbridge, just some demographic information. I'm not sure if I'm keen on all the information here, but certainly to show that the number of people that are cost burden for housing. You know, 66% of renters and 27% of homeowners are cost burden, meaning that they spend more than 30% of their income on housing. Now, sometimes, you know, for homeowners, it's maybe not a big deal, but for a lot, it could be a big deal. And the other statistic, which I talk about a lot, is the ALICE population, the struggling households. And there's 616 struggling households that are at ALICE or poverty level thresholds. So these are folks that are very housing unstable, and it just takes, you know, one event, you know, lose a job, illness, you know, something that just throws your, you need a new septic system. Something that could,
My neighbor's going through that right now, yeah.
you know, it's just like some big cost that could
Yeah.
really
Puts you over the edge, yeah.
put you over the edge. And so I think, you know, sometimes when you're living in your nice house on a hill, you're not really thinking about like folks that could be struggling, and you don't realize that there are people that really could use affordable housing that are living in our town.
I think that statistic is the most shocking, and I think had a lot of effect on people when they heard that.
Yeah.
Especially, I think the first time we said that, I want to say, is at the JCC meeting. Maybe it wasn't the first time, but I remember when that came out, I think people were very shocked to know that. I
Yeah.
mean, and I think if we keep driving that point home and then saying, by the way, it's not just in our town, it's everywhere else, as we're aware, you know, that may get people to think more about affordable housing,
Yeah.
but that was quite the statistic.
And I think that was certainly true, the meeting that we had at my house, people were amazed
Mm-hmm.
and very unaware of so much. So I think if we can really continue the community conversations, I think that's gonna be very, very helpful.
Yeah,
There's just a lack of awareness.
right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I agree, because my kids do gymnastics. Even recently, I was having a conversation with a gentleman, and as I read the school children, people still think the school children,
That there's gonna be too many,
Yeah.
yeah.
people still have that strong, like, oh, school children. So this, it's just important to get this
Yeah.
information across.
Right, and, you know, it's interesting when you go back and just look at the numbers, you know, because I know they say the Beach Road School, like, the numbers are up, it's like 840 children, and I don't know what the real
Yeah.
numbers are, but it was like when my kids were going to school, the
It's-
population was 1,000, you know, so maybe it went up from like a couple years before, but if you compare it to like,
Yeah,
you know, the
Yeah.
middle 2000s,
and it's
it's
cyclical.
still less, you know,
That's
so
right.
it doesn't, you know, you could just play around with the numbers, I mean, you know, you could just have fun with those. But I don't, but again, it's not gonna impact, I mean, the housing we're looking at, targeting at this point, it's not gonna impact the school population. But, you know, down the road, if we start, you know, developing, growing as a town, I mean, I don't know, isn't that a good thing?
That's-
I mean, we are getting older, you know, an older population in Woodbridge, and I would think you wanna like start and, you know, inspiring, you know, families to move in, and even hope their kids just hang around, you know, because I look at all my daughter's, you know, friends from high school when you know, she did spend 1 year of high school here. They're gone. They're not, they don't live in Woodbridge.
Yeah.
Everybody just leaves,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there's
Yeah, because there's,
not much.
And as
Yeah.
Lou said, as our town grows and is more viable, we'll hire more teachers, you know,
Yeah.
it could be a very good thing
Yeah, I
going
mean,
forward.
it's all, you know, growth is good, you know, increasing the population is.
It would be nice if people returned. I mean, where I grew up in West Hartford, and, you know, everybody initially went away to college, because everybody's like, oh, I'm dying to get out, you know, because you're a kid. You'll be the same way. And then, and then everybody returned.
Yeah,
And
'cause
everybody
it's-
has
'cause it's a
kids
great
going
town.
to our high school now, or the other high school across, you know, everybody
Yeah.
comes back. And you kind of want that, right?
If you can afford
our
to.
first-
You can afford
Well, that's right, if you can afford to,
Yeah, yeah.
which is the
Yes.
problem.
So, yeah, because the town's, you know, it's an older town, and I read an interesting article that some people, even though they retire and they're living in their houses, some point, a lot of retirees run out of money,
Mm-hmm.
and then you'll be surprised how things change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's
Whole
another
streets.
thing
Yeah,
to
yeah. They want to downsize and they
Yeah.
want to stay in a familiar area.
get more affordable.
Right, well, it's interesting, because I did have a community conversation, with the Rotary Club, I don't think,
Oh.
Elaine was there.
Yes.
Oh,
That
gosh.
was interesting.
That was very interesting.
But there was one particular, Rotarian, is it? That, she was very opinionated, in not the most flattering way, but the one thing she did say, you got a sense of a problem that's probably happening to a lot of older people, and as she's stuck in her house and needs a lot of renovations. She can't afford the renovations, but she's got no place to move to, but she wants to stay in Woodbridge. And then she said, well, you know, if you do housing in the Woodbridge Country Club and you do a development like
Lucy Street.
Lucy Street, which is the senior development for like low income senior development, I'll support that. So this person would have been the last person I would think would support housing on the Woodbridge Country Club, but because she is in need of housing,
Absolutely.
a housing option, she
Yeah.
was fine with doing a nice development like Lucy Street on the Woodbridge Country Club. She said, I will support that. So
And she
I
can't
just
be the
thought-
only one, so.
yeah, so it was very telling that maybe these houses that are appraised, because I'm sure her house is appraised at 250,000 or less, right? Maybe not, but I'm sure there's those types of families that have been in their houses for a long time that hasn't had a updated appraisal
Right.
and is at 250 and is probably in the same situation where they're kind of stuck in their house and there's no options for them to move to.
So the materials to promote community conversations. So these materials that you've provided are the ones that you would like us to utilize when we're discussing.
Well, I'm thinking I'm proposing, that's why
Do you want us to vote on that?
I have one more piece that I stuck together, which I did this very quickly, and it's probably could be prettier. But what I did was, I took the chart from, Hamden. They had the myth and truth, I'm looking at the myth and truth chart. And so I just recreated that. And it's just some, typical things you hear about, reducing property values, that affordable housing is cheap and ugly, the crime, it's gonna burden the school, and then what the truth is. And these two pictures are examples of affordable housing in Madison. One is an existing development, which I thought would look really nice in Woodbridge, the white with the black, because it
Yeah,
kind of
would
reminds me
Blend
of,
right in with,
the firehouse, the parish house over here. I mean, that to me, it just fits right into
Yeah.
our landscape.
existing design.
And that's just one of the many examples that look like that, I mean, there's so many that are so nice.
Yeah. And then the bottom one is the ongoing affordable housing development that they just approved. But, I mean, these are just examples, and I think if folks see that this is what the housing looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are nice.
So it's a hard call because the request that we heard from a couple of people at the meeting was, you've given us so much information, it's a lot to absorb. Can you do it on one sheet of paper, like concisely?
Yeah.
Which the preface pretty well does, actually. I mean,
Yeah, I don't think I can't really do it on one piece of paper.
It's impossible, I know.
But, so I thought what we could do, and if this works, we just combine these different handouts and we try, we could try it, and
Yeah.
if it doesn't work, they may come back and say, it'd be better, it would be more helpful if we had this or that.
Yeah, I mean, this basically summarizes everything. This dispels some of the myths. It shows some examples in Madison.
Yeah,
We've already started building them.
Yeah,
Madison.
Madison, yeah.
And
So-
then, did I say Madison? And what's
Loud
that?
and clear, yeah.
And I like this snapshot of Woodbridge, albeit it's from 2021. I'm sure it hasn't changed much. In fact, it probably got worse. And I think that's great. Visual, I mean, I think we should submit, this is what we should be passing out to everybody.
Is everybody good with that? Should we vote
Yes.
on that?
Yeah.
I feel like the
Good.
town has gotten less affordable in the last year.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to be trying to buy a house right now.
nope,
Um,
okay.
All right, so I'm going to, I think what I'll do is say we want to try to make this prettier? Or is it okay the way it is?
Well, we can vote on the content, and then if somebody's, I am not the person, so don't even look at me for that, because I am not good with the computers. But if, that's why I think I have Javier now, so on my commission help me, but if, we can vote on the content, and if somebody can make it look
Better.
nice, we could do it.
Yeah, I don't know, is that okay the way it is, or should we single space it?
That's fine,
Okay.
it's fine. And I use the big font, it's fine.
Yeah.
I like it.
What do you think, Miles?
I think it looks good, it gets the information across.
Okay.
All right. So should I make a motion to adopt, what did we say, this information as our informational packet to provide during our community conversations?
Sounds good.
And it's also for other people
And for anyone who's interested in information on affordable housing.
and people that want to continue the community conversation. That's what this request came from, really. People from our community conversations wanted to continue the community conversations, but they wanted information in order to have
They
it.
wanted to
All right.
understand it better so that they could communicate it to other people.
I guess just to promote community conversation, don't make it too complicated.
All right, I'm gonna strike what I said and I'll start over. So I'm gonna make a motion to adopt the information within this packet as the informational packet provided to promote community conversation and to provide to anyone who requests information on affordable housing.
I second it.
Okay, all right.
We're gonna have to get the rewind.
All okay? We voted?
All in favor?
Okay.
Great.
are
Did
these
you have a question?
Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering if this were to be, what did you call it, the information
Informational packet to promote.
for community discussion,
Mhm.
would it be publicly provided on the website?
It's a good thing.
Yeah, we
Oh,
could do
that's a
that.
good question.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
could.
And then,
Good point.
Yeah.
would someone be able to take that on the website and then distribute it from there as well?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, create a document,
That's-
informational packet, and then someone can print it out, and, yeah, you,
Yeah.
actually, this should be on the website anyway, 'cause it's something that we
Yes.
approved,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
so it
And-
should be posted.
Have we talked about a community conversation at the high school?
Well, that was an idea that would be really, really great, and I was thinking about that. Is that something you think we could arrange at the school to have a community conversation? Or,
I'm not sure what the school is scheduling with different things is. I know it's hard to do an event during the school day.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought one of the better sort of things like,
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, you had mentioned that, we talk about that, that was a good idea.
yeah, so, I know one club that I'm a part of does stuff like that, but we have one more meeting for the year, and that's like.
Yeah, it's the end of the year,
Yeah.
and then they have finals.
That's right.
What club are you in?
JSA, it's the Junior State of America.
Yep.
I could talk to the president of that club and see if she would be open to just having a meeting with students.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it is the end of the year, it is getting a
I
little
know.
crazy. I mean, AP exams are this week, I know,
The-
your daughter's
the
has
main-
one on
the main
Friday.
issue is that after next week is the seniors go on internship.
Right.
So they
Yeah.
have to, like, they go away. But I'm sure that our club could still meet without the seniors, and then,
Yeah.
either
Or
you
do it in the fall.
You could come and
Yeah,
just,
well,
Or do it in the fall.
yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
probably good to
Oh,
maybe introduce it now as a prime, you know, to prime it for the new school year, when you guys are all seniors. And
It's,
you're,
it's actually a little funny because at our last convention, which was just a few weeks ago, we were talking about ways that we could get chapters, like clubs at each school involved in community issues. So I guess it's sort of fits right into that.
fits right into it, yeah.
So there's definitely like a path provided by this club to reaching the student body. Yeah, I'll ask the people who run it if I could have something on it. I guess it would be 2 weeks from now.
That'd be great,
Great, thank you.
perfect,
Okay.
perfect, yeah, 'cause I think that's just a
All
great
right.
sector to tap into. Because I'm sure there's probably some high school teachers that would be interested in, you know, housing
Mhm.
options.
Yeah.
Right?
Grassroots.
Yes, that's right, all right. I wasn't at the meeting, so I can't partake in the minutes, so that's all on you guys.
Oh, okay, where's my minutes?
Donovan wasn't either, so.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Yeah, I didn't, I should have sent this out earlier so folks could read it. But really it was a debrief of the community conversations, that we had. You know, Elaine updated everybody, and we talked about the library conversations, which I thought was really, that was pretty interesting. And then I talked about the property sales, which, you know, formed the basis for my response to Kathy Wick and her list of houses. Yeah, I did wanna talk to Lou, you know, if Lou connected with Connect, or?
I haven't talked to him, no, I don't know.
So
Yes.
you'll have to move for it to be adopted, right? For the minutes to be adopted.
Oh, yeah. Technically.
1, 2, 3 of you, yeah. You have quorum to vote on the minutes.
Said you're all home to watch the film.
Oh,
Oh, we
oh.
didn't have a recording.
I don't know what's a
Well, we could
Quorum
just,
is-
we could
I
just
don't
defer
Oh,
it.
we
You have quorum.
Yeah,
we have a
okay.
quorum.
Yeah, we're just abstaining, so you weren't there.
Yeah. I never vote on the minutes because I never know whether or not we have to like follow the Robert rules
I
or
would- I would
order for,
We don't follow Robert's rules, but you can certainly, you know,
yeah.
adopt them, you know, vote to adopt the
Well, you
minutes.
ask for any
Yeah,
changes.
changes or deletions, and then, yeah.
So, let's see what else happened.
When is the BOS meeting, Jean? What's the date of that?
What,
Presenting to
I think it's the was it second Wednesday? Second Wednesday? Is it?
For Board of Selectmen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and did I put that on the agenda? Hold up. I guess I could throw that into other business. Yeah, because I was planning actually on having, Susan Jacobs here to talk about her 2030, the committee's work on 2030 task force. Because, you know, it seems like they're also doing some, recommendations for zoning changes down in the, business district, and we have talked about, which I did recommend to zoning, planning and zoning to, amend the zoning regulations to allow opportunity housing in Dev 1, and so, I realize that there's these ongoing initiatives that are happening in silos that really need to cross-pollinate better. So she's able to come, she couldn't come tonight, but she's able to come for the June meeting, because I think we have to, I'm not gonna recommend something and they're already planning on something else, and
Yeah.
it doesn't work.
Well, we should all be, I mean, that's one of the issues, right, is that not all of us are communicating with the other commissions where we overlap and are working on similar projects, right? And we do want to collaborate with as many people as possible,
Right.
so.
Would it be well to have, of course, it would be well to have a conversation with the commission, with the group, with the 2030 committee, with the Conservation Commission. We had some people from Conservation, we had Susan Jacobs who has already participated. But if the whole committee could do so, how much better?
With 2030 or conservation?
Both, either, all, you know.
Both,
Yeah, I
either
don't-
all.
I mean, it's not gonna happen, you're not gonna
Yeah.
get the Conservation Commission to sit down and have a community conversation about affordable housing, I don't see that in there.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we just have to figure out how to work it out.
I mean, I think it doesn't hurt to ask. I mean, I think that, some of the members would definitely be more amenable than others to talk about
Well,
it.
we
I mean, I
did
think they
invite
realize it's
them.
a reality in Woodbridge, so it would be better, I think, in my opinion, if, your two committees and, your committee and commission could, work it out where everybody, not that everybody gets what they want, but, there's a good compromise, right? I mean, they're very, so.
To have an opportunity.
Right, to
Which
talk,
is what
right.
these things are all about, an opportunity to get
Right.
a sense of what other people's perspectives are
Mhm.
and to trade information. As I said, we did invite them
Mhm.
to the conversations at the library, and some people did attend.
Well, they did.
Yeah. At least
So Susan Jacobs from
two.
2030, right?
Did someone come from conservation?
Who else from 2030?
Barbara Hyman Smith from Conservation.
Yeah.
I don't know who was there in the afternoon. I mean,
I
even-
don't actually know, I don't know who's on the committee.
But they weren't representing those things, they came as individuals.
Yeah.
Right, of course, yes.
Yeah, but the thing was, I don't know how much of the conservation community that represented, because Tim Austin didn't even know that this conversation was
Taking place.
taking place. So, I'm wondering whether or not we do have a conversation with the Conservation Committee,
Commission.
Commission, and,
It can't hurt, really.
Well, we were, we went to that conference about conservation and housing,
yeah,
and that would be one way to follow up on that.
yeah, so that's an idea.
I mean, the reality of the situation is that there are vacant properties in Woodbridge, and the usage of that property is going to be coming up, whether it's initiated by COOPUP, by you, by conservation, whoever, recreation, whoever does it. And I would hazard a guess that those properties are gonna be of interest of this committee, of conservation, simultaneously. So it doesn't hurt to try to talk about both of your visions. And if they don't, I mean, you have total different interests, right? So, it doesn't hurt to just keep communicating, right?
Well, there is overlap there.
There is I think there's a, and I don't want to speak for the members, but, I watch their meetings, every month, and I think that there's, my takeaway anyway, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, but it's not right, but anyway, I feel that there's a concern that it's all development, and nobody cares about conserving any of the land, and I know that's not true. So maybe if that was reiterated, by this committee, I think there's a thought that COOPUP feels that way, and I say it, I don't know how much clearer I could be that that's not the case, but, We'll see.
I mean-
Communicate, right? Just tell
Yeah, I
everybody.
mean, the whole idea is that higher density
Right.
helps conserve property. So if you had, and that's even like we talked about the Woodbridge Country Club, you know, there's lots of folks that would like to see some of that preserved, you know. And if people feel strongly about that, then, you know, I think you could have a combination of both, because that's a large piece of property. And so if you do development on 50 acres and you preserve 100 acres, that should be a good compromise.
Right, I mean, I'm thinking of, let's say, Forest Road, for example. I'm not saying this is true, but let's say, because I haven't looked at the map lately, but let's say that does include a piece of the expansion. I don't know if that's accurate, but let's just say it
Yeah.
does. So, piece of it could potentially be the expansion, and the rest, you know, not all of it, but some of it could be, you know, high-density housing, and then the rest could be conserved if it's a natural pathway for, nature, and, just things like that. And that's all about communicating and compromising, right?
Yeah.
So, listen, I mean, we're not gonna convince everybody, it's just the way of the world, right? But it doesn't hurt to try.
Yeah, I mean, if
Yeah,
you
for
could
sure.
come to an agreement, then it would.
Right, so I don't know if you start ahead of time and just have the conversation now, or if you wait for when properties come up and the discussion happens, about a particular property and talk about it then, whatever you think would be more useful, I guess, or beneficial for everybody.
We just need to think about what the issue is here. If it's that people see all of this development taking place along roads, individuals owning property, they can't be prevented from putting a McMansion on it, and, you see this over and over and over again. It quite understandably could trigger a knee-jerk reaction. We've got to save everything we possibly can save.
Right.
So you have to move the conversation away from that crisis mode to say, okay, what do we really want things to look like? It can't be just all one thing or all another thing. Assuming that we have a variety of different needs, what should we be conserving that will really add to the value of the streetscapes and the recreation opportunities and so on? Not just every single piece, every single tenth of a piece, or whatever it is that they come to get, but things that really make some sense, and leaving a respectable amount of other things that are suitable for housing. So, but that's a job, because you have to shift it. One of the things they were emphasizing at that conference was the logical collaboration between these two groups, because if you don't constructively communicate about what's going on in your town, then the housing people may make an error in choosing the property that they select for development, when they should do better to position the thing on a different part of the
Right.
lot,
Right.
or whatever it is. So if you're not talking to other people, you might easily make.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because, and I know there's members of the commission who are amenable to keeping open lines of communication, because I know, for example, with 1014 Merritt Avenue, that whole craziness, is no other word of saying it, that I know in retrospect, because I didn't have any input from conservation regarding our recommendation, nor was I ever told that by Woodbridge Land Trust or by conservation, that Woodbridge Land Trust in the end communicated with the developer and the developer is giving it to them, then I didn't have to make a recommendation, because it's not a publicly owned property, right? But nobody communicated that piece to me, number one. Nobody communicated, and to Coopop, not to me, but to Coopop. And nobody communicated the other piece to me. Nobody came to the meeting to give me their input as to why that piece of property was so important to conservation, to conserve that property, and why the town needed to keep that property in order to protect it. And I think after that whole situation, I know, because I watched their meeting, that they had a huge discussion about their takeaways, and one of them was, we need to communicate with Coopop. We can't just sit here and not, be two commissions and we stay over here in our corner and we're, the other commission's over there. And I think that's the way across the board with all of our commissions.
I mean, yeah.
We all have our different charges. We all do different things, but like you said, every once in a while, and especially our three commissions, I feel like, committee and commissions are going to be intersecting left and right. And we all, with a little bit of recreation, a little bit of whatever, and everybody's going to be communicating. We have to communicate and pull each other in and have joint meetings on certain issues, like properties that potentially will no longer be vacant, and used for other purposes, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's how when I heard the presentation by the 2030 task force, and I see that they're recommending like housing and asking for different zoning changes. I'm like,
Well,
okay, we have to work together.
Yeah, I said to conservation, when Tim was at my meeting this month, I said and requested, I think we need to have a joint meeting. Because I think that we both need to understand what our charges are, what our purpose is for the town, what service we provide for the town, without any misunderstandings, so we both know, what we are here to do, just to open up the communications, because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding. There's a lot of individuals who are not thrilled with Coupop, and I don't know why, so I would like to clear the air and find out why. The only way you're gonna do that is to talk to them, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you guys do the same, you guys in the street, we do the same, and, with housing, or just wait until, a property comes up that you're both interested in, I don't know. I don't know what the best way is to do it.
and
I think proactive is
think
always
so.
better.
Yeah.
I really do.
Instead of being reactive.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
precisely what I was saying, yeah.
I think
So that when you are talking about a specific set of circumstances, everybody knows where they're coming from.
Right.
And knows that they're inclined to be cooperative as opposed to,
knee-jerk reactions otherwise is
Yeah.
what
You get-
happens.
get your dukes up.
Yeah.
Right, it's,
Yeah.
exactly, as if it's not a personal attack on a particular commission. It's
Yeah.
just the different
Yeah.
roles we all play.
And not
In
to
town.
expect that from them.
Right.
That makes your conversation.
Right,
much more
right. Okay.
grounded.
So for your, Board of Selectmen in June, your update, I actually have to I'm doing mine for this month because I forgot to do it last time, but, are you just going to listen, you've been having community conversations within
Well, that's not what I
Woodbridge, and
talked
that's it,
about,
right?
and I'm hoping, first of all, if anybody wants to be part of the update, or whether or not I should just, the chair, go in and provide an update, or whether or not we wanna go in as a group. I mean, I'm open to anything, and,
Do you provide it in person to the Board of Selectmen, typically?
I haven't talked to the Board of Selectmen, this will be my first update.
I'm just going to submit it and then ask if they need me to be present. Think you have to go? I'm thinking you have to go next
Are you
Wednesday.
proposing anything that may prove to be a matter of sensitivity?
No, just the list that I already told you and that we'll be reviewing after we're done, that's it. And that's pursuant to the ordinance, so that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I just think,
You're just giving an update, right? You're not asking for anything, are you?
well, I don't know. I mean, I did want to, and here, and I probably should back up because there's other business, and I meant to put this on because I realize, one of the thoughts I had from last meeting was having a public comment for this meeting, but then I realized, that's just a lot to have public comment. We had a big agenda, and I wasn't really given enough notice to people. So I was wondering, because you will always hear, I mean, it's a group, one particular group that does say that there isn't, they didn't have the public comment, they didn't have the opportunity to comment on the plan, even though we've been asking them for comments and they haven't received anything. But I thought, since there is gonna be a report going to the Board of Selectmen, I don't want the public comment to occur at that point. Because it'll be on the agenda, and you might get people there to talk about, all right, well, this report is here, and I have issues with the report. I'd rather just kind of hash it out before we give our report to the Board of Selectmen, because one of the recommendations is I do want that, the affordable housing plan, as we talked about, to be incorporated in the plan of conservation and development.
Okay, so, can I make a suggestion? Sorry, I'm just, no, okay, now you are asking for something, okay. So what I would do is, you should probably, these are two different items, right? So you're wanting to make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen to include our plan within the, POCD, right? Is
Well,
that-
actually, that's a recommendation that would be made to planning and zoning. I mean, I did already make that recommendation to planning and zoning. But before I talk to the Board of Selectmen about that, I wanna make sure that the plan has been vetted as much publicly, so we don't get people showing up at the Board of Selectmen meeting complaining about the plan that hasn't, you know,
But it's already been adopted by the Board of Selectmen.
it has been adopted, but they still are complaining that it wasn't publicly vetted.
But it's already been, but I mean, I don't mean to keep saying this, but it's already been voted on. And
water
that,
under the
it's
table.
water under the, it's done, yeah, it's
Over,
done.
under.
So
over.
I don't think, I mean, there's nothing we can do. We presented it to the Board of Selectmen. We recommended that that be the report that's submitted to the state of Connecticut. It was submitted to the state of Connecticut. It's done. You're not rewriting the report, right?
No, I just
You're not
wanted-
providing another version?
No, I just wanted to hear, you know,
I mean,
I'm
you
dying
can't,
to know what they have to say, frankly.
I
They
mean,
keep saying this and we never hear
right.
what they wanna say.
Right.
I want to hear what they want to say.
right, that's why I wanted to provide the opportunity, like, okay, you wanna say something? Please, I wanna hear
But they
it.
kind of already have been doing that anyway, right?
They haven't, you know, I could probably write the book as to what they're gonna say, but I wanna at least say that the opportunity was, we did present the opportunity. for
So
them
I
to-
guess, well, actually, technically, you should probably say to the Board of Selectmen, how can you do this? So maybe just write a separate recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, separate from your update, because your update is like, this is what we've been doing, this is what housing's been up to.
Well, I thought
Okay.
precursor to that would be to just, if we could schedule like a just special meeting just to have public comment.
Of our group.
Yes, of the plan, and then we just
Do you
sit
think they
here.
would come?
At least we could say,
At least you
would
can say
come.
you tried.
no, I think they would come, yeah. I think if we called up the people that have been saying that there wasn't any public comment and said, hey, okay, we want to
Provide you the.
provide you with this opportunity, yes, they would come. And they could come and they could say the things that they typically say, and we could give them the responses we typically respond with.
You wanna call them individually, or just post the agenda?
No, I would just say, I would post the agenda and maybe give them a heads up that
Mm.
it's there, you know, I mean,
And what are the parameters? Are we gonna treat it as the normal meetings where everybody has 3 minutes
you know.
and there's no response?
I don't know if I don't like the 3 minutes where they just come and they,
Mhm.
you know, I like to have a dialogue, and you could have a dialogue, it's not like, I don't think it has to be necessarily planning and zoning where they come up and they speak for 3 minutes and you can't respond to them. I think, you know, if there's a way of just, I don't, you know, I guess we'd have to see how it goes.
But you probably have to set the rule in advance.
Yeah, because,
Yeah.
I guess it depends how many people show up. If it's just a few, then it lends itself to,
Yeah, I think
To
we'd have to
dialogue.
see how it looks, you know,
I mean, if it's a packed room like TPZ was during that 1014 Merritt Avenue, there's no way we cannot limit the comments because we'll be there until the next morning. I mean, that's reality.
Right.
Um,
I don't think it'll be that.
And I think what you do instead is if you wanna respond to the comments that are being said, you know, if you limit people to the 3 minutes, that, listen, we wouldn't be the only committee that does that. I mean, you know, commissions do that. I've done that before, TPZ, Board of Education, Board of Selectmen, everybody does that, you know, but I think, if you want it, depending on how many people come, and if you want to respond to the comments that are made, then we take note of the comments, and then we could perhaps create a document that responds to those comments, right? And then post it on our website.
I mean, that's another thought, to just have, hear
I
the
think,
comments,
because then they know they've been heard,
right, and then we have a working session after that, and we talk, we discuss
and we
the
did, and we
comments.
create the document.
Yeah.
That's how I would do it, honest, if you want my opinion, because I think if we do unlimited speaking, that could be a very long meeting.
That'd be more like a community.
I mean, the reason to let people is so that, you know, people get frustrated because they wanna be heard, right? And they want us to know that we heard them, and I think the best way to do that is to put it all in writing. And then if someone claims that we didn't let them make public comment and we've not only heard it again, but responded to it in writing, you know, and create a document, then
Yeah.
it's right there in writing, you know?
It's a good idea.
But
So, I guess that brings me to, scheduling that. So I would wanna do that before the June meeting. So I don't know how you're,
what are we calling it, questions about the affordable housing plan? Meeting?
Comments on the affordable housing plan?
Sure. Let's see. When are you thinking? And you need to know if this room's available anyway. You know, you really have to find out that when this room's available
Yeah,
first.
I'll,
And then send out dates to us, I guess, right?
I'll talk to Jeremy, so.
Or the library or
What
somewhere.
dates aren't good for you?
Okay.
Maybe mid-May, like
Yeah,
soon, or third week in May, or?
maybe the third week.
All right, well, the 17th I cannot do it because I have another meeting that I run on
And
that
that's
day.
busy time with,
18th I can't do either, and I have, oh jeez. Hmm.
16?
Let me see when that is. I may have I may be done with my meeting by the time this one starts, let me see.
it could be, no, it could be any day, it could be a special meeting, so whatever, you know, if you give me a couple days, I'll see if this room's available, or,
So I'm definitely, I cannot do this, the 17th, and the 16th I will have a meeting until 6:30 it ends up usually. If you're talking the third week of May, and I can't do Thursday. So maybe Monday or Tuesday after 6:30.
what about the week of like the 22nd?
Okay, so I have my meeting on Monday, so this room isn't available anyway. So.
And what time is your meeting?
And recreation is after me. Mine
Oh,
is
okay.
at, yeah, so this room's done, this room's full for the whole
Okay.
night.
Looks
Um,
like Tuesday the 23rd. There's a squad meeting that day. Let's see.
You get described when you say good.
23rd would be okay for me at night.
Wait a minute, where's the, oh, Memorial Day's the 29th. 24th, that week seems to. Maybe 23rd? May 23rd?
Does that work for you? May 23rd?
You have meetings though too, right? When do you guys meet? Yeah, let's put a question mark on the 23rd, availability of the room. I have to double check one more calendar, but I think that's my life of calendars.
Yeah, yeah, all right, we'll, check in. Okay, well, I appreciate your thoughts on that. I don't know, I think it gets to the point where I just wanna,
We should cover all the bases.
yeah,
I mean,
because I don't
even though
want,
we did give people ample opportunity, but they
Yeah.
seem to remember, or,
So
They
your,
wanted to have it be public.
so your reports, when you report, you just file a written report and then you're not.
That's what I'm doing. And then I'm going to double check, I don't need to be there, but I think from what I understand, they just gather the reports and put them in the, of course, the file folder, and then Jerry Shaw passes them out for the meeting, but I don't even know if there's any discussion regarding the memorandums. I'll ask Beth.
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
yeah.
But I wasn't planning on attending, but now you have me second guessing myself, so.
Yeah,
I will
mean,
find out,
I-
but, I can't imagine, cause I'm off schedule, because I'm off schedule, so I don't think they would have had all the commission heads and committee heads there at the same time, right? That'd be kind of lengthy. I think their
don't-
interest was in liaisons not having to report or come to meetings, it wasn't mandatory anymore, to shorten the meetings and to not have liaisons have to go to like all these different meetings at the same time. I mean, different nights of the week, but
How
I'll
often
ask.
do you have to, report?
Quarterly?
Oh, really?
Yes, and I've been bad, this will be my first one, so.
Okay, all right. Well, I
But it was
don't
supposed to
think-
start in October, and I
Yeah.
started
I mean, I wasn't,
May.
you know,
So I
did
feel really bad.
anybody ever mention it to you? I mean,
well, I had a check-in with Beth, and she's like, oh, I should have you on, to report. So I wasn't on like a quarterly schedule to report, because I think it does say, or the charge does say that we need to report from time to time to the Board of Selectmen, or something like that, but it doesn't say.
So there was an email that went out in July from Jerry Shaw. Were we in existence in July, like this committee in July?
No.
No, okay. That indicated that the chairs are to provide quarterly reports.
Oh, really?
To the Board of Selectmen. I should be admitting this on camera that I know this, and I've been attending.
Commissions and committees and committees?
Yeah, so. This will be my first one. Yeah, so, I don't know why it wouldn't include you guys, us. Keep saying
No,
guys.
because we submitted our report in June, right?
it's due June 1st, I think.
Right, and, then we had a little party in July, in June.
Although, you know what, cause did you have a liaison assigned? We didn't have a liaison assigned, right?
No.
Maybe it doesn't apply to committees, maybe it doesn't apply to
Yeah, I don't
committees.
And I don't
Just
remember when
commissions.
we were like reassigned.
So you're probably off the hook.
When was that?
We got
See if I can find it.
reestablished we got approval in September, and then we had our first meeting in October.
But what I would do is maybe talk to, Jerry Shaw
Yeah.
and ask her tomorrow, because, it really was surrounding, liaisons reporting and non-reporting now, that we now as chairs report instead of them, so, but then again, I know that we're only a committee here, but we're in a very important committee, so they may wanna be hearing from us quarterly.
Yeah.
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 So I would ask Jerry to double check with, Beth what she would like to see from us, but I'm certainly behind, and mine is already being typed as we
Yeah,
speak,
no,
so.
well, that's
I'm
good to
submitting
hear,
it for
because
this month.
I was thinking, do I do a PowerPoint presentation?
No, like
know.
like an uptate, just what the
Yeah.
liaisons would
Okay,
do, which is like a
alright.
summary of what we've been, what you're doing, that's what I'm doing.
All right. That's good to hear. I was making that.
Oh, good, so I thought you knew something I didn't know, and I had
No, I,
present something.
she just said, oh, I should have you report in June, so
Okay.
when she said have me, I thought that meant I come in, sit there and report. And get, questions asked of me anyway.
Because when I submit mine tomorrow, I'm gonna ask if I need to attend, and then they'll let me know, but I would, if I were you, just talk to Jerry Shaw tomorrow.
Okay. All right, I think we've, gone through everything. Well, just one last thing in terms of what we're reporting. So, we do have the minutes from October, but I was gonna touch upon, to just give them a heads up, talked about the, different, one of our first thoughts were doing the recommendations to planning and zoning. We had a couple, zoning, you know, one zoning change, and then we had to incorporate the plan to, because that really is a planning and zoning decision, to incorporate the housing plan into the plan of conservation and development, but at least, you know, let them know that we in fact did that. That hasn't happened yet, because that requires, you know, public hearings and things of that sort. And, we're currently like going through our zoning regulations, which is taking forever. And then talk about the, you know, the fact that we're coordinating with Coupop for to look at the properties. And then the community conversations. And is there anything else we should be reporting on?
Well, you're basically just waiting for the list to come out so you can get a list of
Yeah.
vacant properties
Yeah.
with no restrictions.
interesting.
Is that your
We
line?
should probably mention that we continue to work with the South Central Regional
Scribe.
Housing Company.
Right.
So I think, Kathy, you've covered so much. Liverpool's gonna be pretty lengthy. Maybe a face-to-face be more.
Yeah, I'm thinking that they're gonna have questions, because
I would keep it very general, to be honest with you, and I would say, we've conducted however many community conversations, you know, regarding, this is the way that we, after speaking with Ben Fink, that we feel we'll be able to get through, you know, whatever, however you wanna say. Just make it very general, and I would just focus on that, and I would focus on,
also focus on the coordinating.
your
of other-
request to the TPZ, I would say request to the TPZ. Then I would say you're trying to coordinate with other commissions within the town, right, cause you are. And what was the other, what was?
You're gonna have to tell them what Ben Fink is.
Oh, yeah, you have to say, you know, Ben Fink, what he does,
Yeah.
and that he came, you know, to start, you know, he came here to kind of, guide us in our
Facilitate, yeah.
best approach to affordable housing in town, that our approach has been smaller groups and community conversations. We've had X amount of community conversations thus far. We intend on having, or maybe already did, have a meeting, where people can come in and discuss their concerns regarding, the report, you know, and just say, and we are planning on coordinating with town commissions regarding any potential vacant land after Coupop completes their list of publicly owned properties, right?
Yeah, by that time it'll be already completed, right?
Oh God, I hope so. Yes, I hope so. It's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. And that's it, right? I mean,
That's plenty, yep.
that's all you have to say. I mean, I don't think they need to get into every detail of the meetings. If they wanted to, they could read the minutes, right? It's just enough data what we're doing.
I know, we do provide enough information out there.
It's it's just short and to the point. I mean, mine's short too, you know. List, 2 recommendations, and planning on going through the list afterwards, for, you know, according to our duties and responsibilities, and I'll let you know, kind of thing. That's all I'm putting in mind.
Sounds good. Okay. All right, any other business?
No, I don't think so.
All right, so our next meeting, for the record, I think it's the first Tuesday and Wednesday. of the
Every
month.
month.
First Wednesday in,
No, I was
first
looking.
Wednesday of the month, so is that June?
Let's look what that is.
June 7th.
Oh, June 7th.
Cause you know what, I was looking for those formal email, and then I just added to my calendar.
Yeah,
But,
yeah,
But I'll add it, cause I was, when I saw Jim's email, I'm like, cause I checked, it's not on the
yeah,
app.
Jerry Shaw's now doing the
So it's the
notice,
first-
so I don't think,
So just add it
she was
as-
she's sending that out to, I think she did last month though. But I'll have to
You
remind
asked
her
her
to send it out.
specifically.
It's
So
my
doesn't matter.
grandmother's
I'll add it.
graduation, June 7th, so I'll be
I'll
in
add it.
Montreal, actually.
Oh, nice.
Take me.
It's a nice city.
Yeah.
So
I'm
June
gonna add it.
7th will be the meeting, regularly scheduled, right?
Yeah, it's regular
Okay.
schedule, yeah, and like I said, Susan Jacobs is scheduled to
Should come then, okay.
come and talk.
So should we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion,
Second.
Second.
everybody seconding, okay.
All right, thanks,
Okay.
everybody.